And let me just go back to my screen here. Here we are. So welcome to Taking the Next Step with Mentimeter. And today's workshop, we will talk a little bit more about Mentimeter. And for anyone that has not joined my Menti yet, I see there are a couple of people that are not in yet. Please go ahead and do that now. So I have the QR code here on my screen that you can scan, or you can go to menti.com and enter the code that we have at the top of the screen. So 46 14 84 40. And once you are in the presentation, please go ahead and respond to my icebreaker. So my question to you is, which theme park ride would best describe your week so far? And we have 3 people over here. Looks like a fun little week. Then 4 people over here. 1 hot air balloon as well. Love that. Then we have 3 roller coasters. I would say mine has definitely also been more of a roller coaster. So I would definitely be in this group. 3 people over here and 3 people here, 2 people here. So a lot of variety, a lot of different types of weeks that you've had. But happy to have you all join us here on a Friday, kind of getting towards the end of this week. All right, I think we're ready to officially get started. So today, as I mentioned, we will be talking about taking the next step with Mentimeter. So we're gonna be looking at some of the little bit more advanced features as opposed to the previous session that we had. But my name is Emilia, for those of you that haven't met me yet, and I am your dedicated customer success manager here at Mentimeter. So my task is to really make sure that you get the full value out of the tool. And okay, we have a couple of people that are just coming in now. So yeah, for anyone that hasn't or just joined, please go ahead and join my Menti as well. So you can just go ahead and scan the QR code or go to menti.com. And once you're in the presentation, you can just give me a thumbs up and then I know that you are in. And through the Menti, you will also be able to ask questions throughout the session. So we have the open Q&A button enabled for you. Then we do also have the little reactions here that most of you have already found as well. So we have 6 thumbs up here now. And I've also enabled the quick chat comments here. So if you click on the send a comment button, you can send a comment here and that will appear on my screen for a couple of seconds and then disappear. But for questions, please use the open Q&A button. Through that, you will also be able to see any questions that other people are submitting if there's something that is relevant for you there. Great. But I think you all know the drill, so I'm just going to go ahead and go to the next slide, which is a quick check-in question. Did you join our previous webinar that was on February 21st? I added a couple of different options here. So yes, I did. No, but I watched the recording. Nope, at all. And what session if you don't even know what I'm talking about? All right, cool. It looks like at least 10 of you now did join, 11. Fantastic, great to see that. Then we have 4 people that did not. That's completely fine. So today's session will be a little bit more advanced, but Mentimeter is still a very easy to use tool. So I'm sure that even if you haven't joined the previous session, you won't be too overwhelmed by today's session either. Great. Okay. For anyone that or people that just joined, I'm just gonna go ahead and quickly add the QR code as well. So for those of you that haven't joined the Menti yet, you can do that through the QR code. Otherwise, the code will be available at the top of my screen throughout today's session, so then you will be able to join through that as well. Okay, we're getting more towards 50-50 between yes and no. And yeah, interesting. Really cool to have new people join as well. Nice. Oh, okay. Now we also have one person that has watched the recording. So that's fantastic to see. Great to hear that we're not recording for nothing. So there are people that are watching the recording. So great to see that. Cool. All right. I also wanted to ask, what have you been using Mentimeter so far? So I've added a couple of different options here. We have icebreakers, knowledge checks, quizzes, gathering feedback, brainstorming or decision making, surveys or homework. And then I've also added the option I have only voted, not actually tried Menti myself. Then I can get a better understanding of, yeah, what it looks like. How are we using Menti? Okay, interesting. We have quite a few people that have only voted, never actually tried Menti. That's fine. Today, hopefully, you will get some ideas around how you can also get started with the presentations. Then we also have 4 people that have used Mentimeter for icebreakers, 5 knowledge checks, 4 quizzes, 3 gathering feedback. Great. All right. Yeah, all of these are options that you can use Venti for. And today we're also going to look at a couple of examples around what these can look like. But then you can, of course, also go back to the recording of the previous session where we also have more examples around these. Great. The agenda for today's session is that I'm going to quickly ask you a little bit more about your thoughts around teaching, and then we're going to talk about some common challenges that teachers might face. Then we will have a look at some of the more advanced Mentimeter features, what those look like, what you can use them for, and then also kind of look at the back end of how to set everything up. Then I have a quick topic on best practices and how to make sure that your presentations are as engaging as possible. And then we will finish off with the Q&A. But feel free to add questions at any point during today's session. I think I will actually answer those throughout as well. So at any point when you feel like something is confusing or you're curious to learn more about a specific topic, just pop that in the Q&A and I'm more than happy to cover that. Great. So a couple of common challenges that you might face in teaching scenarios. So question to you, which of the following challenges do you experience often? So I have added keeping students engaged, understanding students' knowledge levels, adapting to varying student needs, keeping up with technological advancements, or something else as well, if you want to choose that one. Cool. Very interesting. We can see that the most popular answers right now would be adapting to varying student needs as well as keeping students engaged. But we do also see quite a bit of understanding of students' knowledge levels as well as keeping up with technological advancements. I know that that can be a lot when there's constantly new tools and everything is developing so quickly. But great. We can definitely then focus on these challenges that you're facing the most. And just a quick tip here for anyone that is a little bit confused of what is this question type? This looks like something that you haven't seen before. So this is just the same multiple choice question that we used earlier as well, but I've just chosen a different layout. So that's also something that you can use if you want to switch it up sometimes during your sessions. Great. So some common challenges that I've heard from a lot of my other university customers would include keeping students engaged, like you said as well. And there, especially if you are in large lecture halls and have a lot of different students there, it might be very difficult to keep everyone engaged. And then also maintaining students' focus, because often the lectures that we have are longer than people's attention spans. So in those cases, it can be really, really tricky to maintain that focus throughout the entire lecture. Then also understanding knowledge levels. That can be tricky when you have a lot of variety in the room. So like not everyone is at the same level. And then also throughout a course, it might be difficult to understand if students are keeping up with this, the pace that you have for the course, or if someone is maybe falling behind. And then varying student needs. So of course, people come in with different levels of knowledge, different motivation, different needs in terms of what the teaching should look like. And then technological advancements, also staying up to date with everything that is changing, and then working with those new tools. So these are definitely challenges that we also aim to help you with, and we can dive a little bit deeper into that just in a moment. So now I would love to show you a couple of examples around how to use the advanced features of Mentimeter. So yeah, last time we talked about some of the basic use cases, but this time we're gonna dig a little bit deeper. And the first thing that I wanted to show you is tracking changes over time. So this is especially something if you want to assess either the learning outcomes in a course and throughout the course, or if you are tracking feedback on lectures or something like that. So here we have an example on what that could look like. And the example that I chose is a simple feedback question. So here's a question: how was today's lecture? And this is our scales question type, which allows you to ask for feedback, and you can add a scale and you can choose how many statements you want to have there. So here I have 2 statements. So I learned something new and I found the lecture to be valuable. And then you can see that for these statements, here we can see the average of everyone's input. And then when I hover over it, I can also see how the individual answers were spread out. So now I'm going to give you a little bit of time to answer this so we can see what this would look like. And you can, of course, answer whatever you feel like. Great. Okay. It looks like everyone is a fan here. So we have 4.7 for the statement, I found the lecture to be valuable, and 4.3 for I learned something new. And here, actually, I love this example now because now we can see that overall we have quite a high average, so 4.1. But then sometimes it's the distribution that also tells us a lot more information than just the average. So here we can see that we have quite a few people that are all the way here at the top, and then we have 2 people here. So if this was now a lecture that I was teaching, then maybe I would know that, okay, we have 2 people that haven't really learned anything new today. So maybe I need to offer some more challenging options as well, maybe some extra credit or whatever it might be. But then the real power of this, of course, comes from tracking those changes over time. So if now, for example, I identified that I need to include something a little bit more tricky, And what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to exit the presentation mode so we can pretend that this was now a lecture that I've finished and I want to go ahead and see how things have changed over time. So then for the next lecture, I'm just going to go ahead and press Manage Results. And now I'm just going to reset results for this slide. And that means that I'm going to clear out the slides for this presentation, this slide. So you can see that now it's empty, but everything is still saved in the back end. So now we can actually go ahead and vote again. So if you want to submit a couple of responses here, we can see what this would look like if we track it over time. Great. All right, perfect. We have a few votes there, and I'm actually going to go ahead and repeat the same thing again so we can pretend that this was now 3 different occasions throughout the course. For example, the beginning of the course, and then the middle, and then towards the end. So again, reset results. We're back to the beginning, and now I'm going to present again, and you can go ahead and vote for the last time for this slide so we can see what this would look like. Oh, I love this 5.04. Okay, not anymore. Awesome. Okay, now we have quite a few votes, but I'm going to give you a little bit more time if you want to submit your votes. You definitely don't need to if you don't want to, but you can. Great. Okay, so then now that I've actually asked this question a few times, here on the left side of my screen, I have this little menu which allows me to look at a couple of different things, but the one that I want to show you now is show trends. And when I click on that one, it shows us a graph of how these have changed over time. Now we actually had a relatively similar result for each of these different sessions, but you can see that it created session 1, session 2, and then we have the current one. So this one, for example, I found the lecture to be valuable, has been trending downwards. So then maybe I know that now we're not going in the right direction, so maybe I need to take some action there. Whereas I learned something new has actually improved a little bit, especially between sessions 1 and 2. So that's a quick tip on a built-in more advanced feature for tracking changes over time. So I'm on the scales question type, and then when reusing that, asking the same question again, I can check how things have developed over time. But now I'm just going to go ahead and click hide trends, and then we're back to the normal view of the scales question. Great. And then my next advanced feature that I wanted to show you is understanding correlation. And what that can look like is, for example, this one here. So now the question is, which one of these best describes you? And then we have 3 options. So I'm fully confident speaking English. I sometimes get nervous when I need to speak English, and I'm terrified when I need to speak English. All right, great. We have the first responses here, and we have some people for all of these. I love that. It's great that we have, different levels of confidence here as well. I'm going to wait a little bit longer. And for anyone that hasn't joined the presentation yet, you can go ahead and scan the QR code or go to menti.com and then enter the code there. I see that we have 15 people that have currently submitted their thoughts. Okay, great. All right, so now it looks like most of you that are either fully confident or sometimes get a little bit nervous. And then we also have 2 people that are terrified, which is, of course, also completely understandable. Great. And the reason why I wanted to ask you this is obviously this is a great example on how you can ask a question that can make your students feel more heard and relate to one another. So now, for example, if we see that 9 people get a little bit nervous when needing to speak English, that can make everyone feel a little bit more comfortable that, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one that feels scared, but rather there are actually quite a few people that also feel this way, and it's completely normal. So I think this is a really great way to create that sense of belonging in a group. But then also, if you want to take this a little bit further, we also have the option to add a follow-up question. So now the question that I have added is, what would you like to see more of in these classes? And this is really related to those individual needs of the students and catering towards the differences. So we have 3 different options here as well. So group discussions, activities in pairs, or individual assignments. And now what you can actually see here is that I've added our previous question here on this slide as well. And this is something that I can do if I want to see how different things are correlated, or if I want to get a little bit deeper insights about a specific topic. So now specifically, if I, for example, say that I want to understand that those of my students that are maybe struggling the most or are least confident in speaking English, and I want to understand how can I help them more. This is a really simple way of doing that. So now I can see that those people that answered I am terrified to my previous question, they have said that they would want more group discussions and activities in pairs. So that can really help me understand that maybe the people that are terrified just need more options or opportunities to talk and to have that opportunity to discuss, and especially maybe if it's in pairs, then feel like it's a low stakes conversation where you don't need to be afraid of making mistakes. And then, yeah, here we can see, for example, those that sometimes get nervous, they're kind of spread out across all of the different options, and the same goes for those that are fully confident in speaking English. Oh, and then now we can also see that we have one unknown here, and that's something that you would get if a person answers the current question but did not answer the previous question. So now you know why that appeared there as well. Some other contexts in which you could use this example would be, for example, if you do some hybrid sessions, then asking students if they have mostly been working or studying on campus or online, and then comparing how well they are keeping up. So then you know if it is mostly people on campus or people that are at home that are struggling the most. So a really, really simple way for you to see how different things are correlated and what might be influencing another factor. Great. And one tip here is that this is also something that you can either set up prior to a session like I did now. So you can see that I already had the question here. But then if you are already presenting and then on the spot you realize that you want to actually add something like this, you can always do that through the same menu here. So now when I'm on a multiple choice question, this feature is called segmentation. So I can just click on this button and then choose which question I want to segment with. So a bit of an advanced feature as well, but a quick tip for anyone that does feel comfortable and wants to try this as well. And then I also wanted to show you our third advanced feature, which is the quick form slide. And this is something that you can use to gather contact details in the back end. And we're actually going to use this for attendance for today's workshop as well. So here I've added a couple of fields, and you can now please enter your email address here. So then once we record that, we can then see that you have joined today's workshop. And this quick form slide is something that you can use if you don't want to show the results on the screen to everyone, like we've done with the other questions. So here, the only thing that you can see on my screen is just the title and whatever visuals I wanted to add for this slide. But then here at the bottom of my screen, I can still see when you're submitting your responses. So now I can see, for example, that we have 8 people that have currently submitted this. So for anyone that wants to track their attendance for today's workshop, please go ahead and add your email address there. Great. Okay, we're at 16. I think we're a bit more people than that. So I'm gonna wait a little bit longer until I move forward. Great. Okay, we're at 19. A little bit more time. Okay, I guess that is probably everyone then. So then what I wanted to also ask you is what would you like to see in future training sessions? So now, if you joined the first one, then you have a good understanding of both the first getting started with Mentimeter session, as well as today's diving deeper into advanced features. We also have a third workshop scheduled already, but I would love to hear if there is anything specific that you would like to see in future training sessions with Mentimeter. Maybe if it is some quick things, I'm of course also happy to still cover those in today's session. But one thing that I wanted to show you here as well is that I've used our feature to hide responses. And this is something that you can use if you don't want students to be influenced by other students' answers. So now you can see that while you're submitting the responses, you can't actually see what other people are submitting. So the responses are hidden. And the same as for the quick form, I can still see at the bottom of my screen how many people have submitted their answers. So that way it's easier for me to know if it is time for me to show the responses or if people might need a little bit more time. So we have 3 people here. I'm gonna wait a little bit longer before I show you what the responses look like. And this hiding of responses, it's also something that you can do either prior to a session or on the spot. So you can see that it says here, press H to show responses. So that's the little cue for me as well, that once it is time for me to show the responses, I can do that. But otherwise, I can also do that at any point during a presentation. I can just press H and then it hides the responses for everyone. Great. But now let's see, we have a couple of responses here. Now we have advanced features are very helpful. Yeah. How to have a warming activity with students. Great. How Mentimeter can be included in teaching practice research. Great. How to get students to use Mentimeter without registering their name. Yeah, I mean, by default, Mentimeter is anonymous. So I think, especially in teaching languages, that's kind of where the power comes from when people, don't need to worry that, oh, like now someone's gonna know that I said something wrong or incorrect, but rather you can just try and then we can together look at, for example, the responses. Yeah, after knowing Mentimeter function, need to know how to use. Absolutely. So in today's session as well, we're gonna do a bit of a walkthrough of Mentimeter. So don't you worry. How to use students' participation for assessment purposes, how to gather data and systematically analyze how many sessions they attended when calculating their grades for classroom participants. Ah, that's a really interesting one. Examples of actual course implementations. Great. I can definitely bring these ideas with me and see if we can implement some of these. But here I also wanted to show another advanced feature, which is actually our brainstorming feature. And this is something that you can use if you want to make a decision. So gather ideas from the students and then make a decision. And I also saw, please show us the real examples. Great. We had some real life examples in the previous training session. So you can maybe also check out the slides for that because I shared the slides and through those you can also see a couple of examples. But great. So here with the brainstorming feature, we have the option to then actually make a decision. So now I can go ahead and press enter to start voting, and then you can actually choose what is the best idea. So you will now have the option to look through all of the ideas that people submitted and then decide, for example, what you would now like to see the most. So sometimes it might not be your own idea that you like the most, but rather someone else's. So then you can just go ahead and look through the ideas and decide what you want to go ahead with. And here as well, I can see on the bottom right corner how many people submitted votes in the previous stage of this question. And then here in the middle, I can then see how many people have voted for this question or the second stage here. So that can help me understand when it is time to show how you voted. So we have 15 people that have voted. I think I will wait until maybe 20 if we get there, until I show the responses. Okay, getting there. Let's go. Great. Okay, so we have our winning idea here, which is how to use students' participation for assessment purposes and how to gather data and systematically analyze. That is really great. I would be happy to include that in our future sessions as well. Great. So a very simple way to first gather ideas from the participants and then make a decision. So some ideas around how you could use this in lectures as well is, for example, asking the students to talk about what kind of activities might help them. And then everyone can just add their input on what they would want to practice in the course, and then together collectively choose which idea to go ahead with. Great. But now it is time for a walkthrough. So I'm going to go ahead and just press exit or escape, and then we get to the edit view of Mentimeter. But since we have quite a few people that haven't used Mentimeter before, I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of Mentimeter and creating presentations. So here on the left side, I have the slides in this presentation. The middle, the slide that I'm working on, and then here on the right side, I have a couple of different buttons and fields to make changes. So then if I am creating a new presentation, I can just go ahead and click New Slide. And then here at the top, we have all of the interactive question types that are available for you. So you can always hover over them to see a bit of a preview, so that can help you choose what is the most relevant question type for the question that you want to ask. Then we also have our quiz competitions. So if you want to really gamify learning or test students' knowledge, you can use the quiz competitions. And then we also have content slides. So if you want to, for example, create your full presentation in Mentimeter, you can do that. But otherwise, we do also have the option to import PowerPoint slides. So then you can, create if you already have your presentation in PowerPoint, you can just import that and add the interactivity in between. But now I'm just going to go ahead and choose multiple choice. So you can see that this is what it would look like at first. So then you just type your question here, and then when I click on this area with the options, it then opens up this menu on the right side. And this is where you can also choose the different visualizations. So I've used a couple of different one of these in today's session. And then here we also have the option to add a correct answer. So if you, for example, say you want to test students' knowledge, but it doesn't need to be a quiz, you can also add a correct answer to a multiple choice question. And then you can also allow people to select multiple options if you want to allow people to, for example, when I asked you about the challenges, I wanted to allow you to choose multiple challenges and not just one. So then you can toggle this one on. And then here, show responses live is something that you can toggle off if you want to hide the responses already before a session. And then finally here at the bottom, so on a multiple choice slide, I then have the option to use the segmentation as well. So this is where I can just pick which question I want to segment with. So that's really how easy it is to create these slides. So you just need to really pick the question type and add your options there. But now, since this was a bit of an example question, I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. You can also copy slides to other presentations or duplicate them if you are creating a lot of similar things. But now let's just go ahead and delete. Great. And then here at the top of my screen, I also have the option to click on settings. And here, the options that I first have are either running a presentation like today's session. So in the presentation pace, I, as the presenter, decide when it is time for you to move to the next question. But if I want to, for example, use Menti for surveys or homework and allow the students to go through the questions at their own pace, I can just pick the survey option here. Then we do also have some language preferences and accessibility check here. So if you want to check those out, you can do so as well. Great. And then here on the right side, you also have the option to add comments if you're co-editing a presentation with a colleague. Then we also have the interactivity options. So here you can choose if you want to have an anonymous session or if you don't want to do that. So you can toggle on participant names if you want to run a non-anonymous session. But I would say, especially in the teaching context, anonymous is probably more powerful because then students will feel like they dare to share their thoughts, feedback, and also guess without the shame of, I made a mistake. Here you can also toggle on which reactions you want. Then we can enable the Q&A. So either you have the option to add a slide type, which is here the Q&A, if you want to only take questions at a specific point. But in today's presentation as well, I have enabled the Q&A for the full presentation, and that's what I recommend for you to do as well. So then if you are running a lecture and you want to allow people to ask questions at any point so they don't need to wait until the end, for example, you can enable this here. You can also moderate the questions if you feel like you want to go through them before they appear in the presentation. And then we also have the live chat that you can toggle on and off here. Great. And then here at the top, we also have the little share button. And through that, if you are running a survey in Mentimeter, this participation link is the one that you can share with your students, or you can also download the QR code so that they can use that instead. Then under editors is where you can add your colleagues if you want to co-edit a presentation. And then slides, this slide link here is the one that I will share with you after today's session. So then you will also be able to go back to all of the examples of this presentation. Or if you want to, copy anything to your own account, you will also be able to do that. We do also have the option to copy the embed code. So if you, for example, want to embed a Mentimeter presentation into your LMS, this is the copy, the code that you can copy for that. Great. And then a final tip in this view would be the little preview button here. So especially if you have just created your first Mentimeter presentation, or say you want to just try something new, some of the advanced features, and you don't really know what that would look like, you don't feel confident enough, this preview is where you can actually test your presentation. So I can move between the slides however I want. And then, here, for example, if I want to see the quick form, I can see that this is what it looks like on the presenter screen. And then this is what it looks like on the participant screen. And I can also test, submit any responses here if I want to. Let's go, for example, here. We can just go ahead and skip ahead, and then I can test what it would feel like if I voted here, and then I see what it looks like on the screen as well. We also have the option to show test responses, so then you can see what it would look like with a lot of votes. So this is really where you can go if you want to feel a little bit more confident as well. And then the final thing in the edit view that I wanted to show you is under the results. So after a presentation, I will then have the option to view the results of this presentation. So I can see each of the slides and how the responses look like. And then I can also still use, for example, the segmentation. So here, this question, for example, I can now see how it is correlated with the other question. And that's something that I can do for each of these different questions here and just go through the responses. But then here on the right side, I will then be able to see the participation percentage overall for my presentation. So especially if I want to see how engaged my students were, this is what I can have a look at. And then I can also see how many questions there were in the Q&A. And then the really powerful part here is looking at this one, which is where you can see all of the questions that I've asked today, and then I can see the participation for each of those questions. So then I can really see which parts of my presentation were more engaging versus less engaging. So here we can see, for example, that this question, what would you like to see in future training sessions, was the one with the lowest participation. So then maybe that was not as engaging as the other examples. And then here we also have the Q&A. So I will be able to see all of the questions that were in my presentation. And then if I want to, for example, filter for questions that I didn't have the chance to answer during the session, I will have the option to do that. So I can just click to go to Q&A, and then here I can see, answered, unanswered, but now of course we only have one question, so it's not as insightful just yet. Then finally, I also have the option to download my results. So either I can download a spreadsheet with all of the responses, or I can download a PDF. So especially if you want to use some feedback slides for reporting or something like that, and you can use the PDF option. Now, just going back to create here, a couple of advanced tips as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to present again, and then some of these I already walked you through. So there was the little, when I hover over in a question slide, here I have the menu of different options. And then here at the bottom of my screen, I also have a couple of different options. You don't need to know these in order to be able to present, but these are just quick buttons that you can use if you want to feel a little bit extra confident and learn the advanced features. So for example, if you want to have a timer for questions, you can use that. Or here where you can enable or disable the comments, same as the Q&A, and then showing the QR code. But we also have a lot of keyboard shortcuts that you can use if you want to feel very smooth when controlling your presentation. So the basic ones that you probably already know, so moving between the different slides. And then here we have the H for hiding or showing responses, and then I for showing the joining instructions and QR code. So today, for example, when I noticed a little bit later that some people joined the call, then I just pressed the letter I to be able to show the QR code quickly so that those people could also join. And then we also have Q for showing questions. So then when I want to take a question, I can just press on that button to see the questions. Great. And then the final thing that I wanted to show you here is AI features. So one tip also, if you want to get started in Mentimeter and you don't know how, I have another tab here. And then here, I just wanted to show you the Start with AI button. So when I click on that one, I have the option to just enter a prompt of what I want. And then let's say it's a quiz on the history of all universities in Taiwan. And then I just hit submit. And it creates a little bit of a better option for me. Let's just use that one. And then I choose the visuals for that presentation. And then it will generate a first draft for me for that presentation. So this is a really simple way for you to get started, especially if you're short on time. I know that we're all very busy nowadays trying to keep up with everything. So this is your option to get started a little bit quicker. So now it says your first draft is ready, and then we have a little quiz with some photos as well. And then first question was, for example, which was the first university established in Taiwan? And so on. So you can go through all of the questions, and then if I, for example, say I don't like this question, I can just go ahead and delete it or add new ones, whatever it might be. So this is a really simple way for you to create the beginning for your presentation. Great. All right. Other than that, we do also have this one. I believe I showed last time as well, or like maybe let's go to a different one. Oh yeah. Let's go to this one. So if I just go back to this question here, we also have the option to look at this button here. So also one of our bit more advanced or features is this Insights button. And this is something that you can use if you want to take action on the results that you get. And here is where we also have the option to create an AI summary. So when I just click on that one, it creates a slide with all of the information summarized. So especially if you are using this with a large audience, this is a simple way for you to get an understanding of all the input that you got. Great. But now I think, let me just go back to this one. So a couple of best practices when it comes to using Mentimeter. So first of all, I recommend that you really enable the Q&A and encourage upvoting of the questions. Especially in lectures, you know, not everyone will feel confident in asking a question out loud, but having that open in the background really helps people to ask a question without the fear. Then I also recommend for you to engage often, and especially asking questions that make the lecture a little bit more relatable. So personal experiences, and something that connects the learnings to something that is meaningful for the students. So if it is, for example, new vocabulary that you're talking about, then be asking the students in what context in your daily life could you use this vocabulary? And then that way the content feels a lot more relevant to them as well. And then the final point is really switching it up and mixing presentation content, reflection questions, knowledge checks, and feedback. So as a general rule of thumb, I would recommend that you always have around 3 to 4 slides of content and then an interactive question. And that way it's easier for participants to really stay engaged and, maintain that focus. And then also the mixing it up when it comes to the different question types. Try to have both, those reflection questions where your students really need to stop and think and relate the content to their previous experiences, for example. Then also knowledge checks, so where everyone is at, if people are keeping up. And then feedback so that you can really help your students in a better way. Great. But then here we have a couple of helpful links for you just finally before we jump into the Q&A. So I first added the link to our next webinar in May, and that's where we're going to really focus on using Mentimeter in formative assessments. And we're going to have a lot of examples from other universities around how they use Mentimeter in those. We also have our help center where you can get step-by-step guides for all of our features and some inspiration and help as well. Blog and templates where you can get a lot of ideas and best practices. And then I've also linked a couple of studies here. So if you're curious to learn more about the science behind Mentimeter, then you can go ahead and check these out. And then we also have self-paced training available in Mentimeter Academy. There is both courses around Mentimeter, but also other topics unrelated to Mentimeter. So we have, for example, the inclusive teaching methodologies, which is where you can interact with other educators around the world and share best practices around how to really include everyone and make sure that everyone in a lecture feels heard and that they all learn and get the same opportunities. Great. But now we have reached the end of the session. So first of all, oh, the link to Menti Academy doesn't work. Let me correct that. I must have copied it wrong or something. So I will just go ahead and fix that afterwards. But important information, we have the QR code here on the screen for your certificate of participation. So this QR code is the link to the survey. So if you fill that out, then you will be able to get your certificate of participation. And then I know that we had one question here now. I used to use AHA slides, but it only allows 5 slides for each presentation on the free version. Will Mentimeter have this or other limitations as AHA slides on the free account? So the good part is that that there are licenses available for all of you. So all English teachers can get a free Mentimeter license. We can probably share the information for how to get a license as well. And then even in the free Mentimeter version, we don't have restrictions around the slides. It would be around participation instead. But yeah, everyone can get a license, so you don't really need to worry about the free version. Great. Okay. For anyone that was trying to scan the QR code and I hit it with the Q&A, you now have the option to see that fully again. But yeah, we still have 2 minutes. So if you have any questions or anything that you would want to still hear more about, feel free to share that here. Otherwise, this is also an open-ended question. So if you have any feedback on today's session, feel free to do that. I know that today we focused a lot on the features as opposed to more on the examples on the previous time. So yeah, if you have any feedback on that, was this valuable? Feel free to share that. Okay, but also if you don't have any feedback, that's completely fine, and you can also just use the survey that we have here. So don't forget to take this survey using the QR code, so then you get your certificate of participation. Great, thank you. Well, thank you for joining this session. It was really lovely to have all of you join us today. And I look forward to having the next session with you. And then in the meantime, you can, of course, use all the self-paced resources and go back to the recording of the first session if you didn't have the chance to do that yet. All right. Thanks everyone so much. And I wish you a fantastic weekend ahead and have a great day and weekend ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Bye,
Emilia.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. See you next time.